Ah, 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 ah. Hello and welcome to the Jokercast, where I, your magnificent jester host, welcome you to join me as I compare two masterpieces. One, a movie that came out a while back that's been pretty good and has aged pretty well. And then the other, a masterfully written book that I have just finished reading. Because what are you going to do? Arkham Asylum is a lonely place. They don't let us make friends. Anyways, that aside, let's get right into it. Wait, one more thing. I'd like to thank all of you for supporting me. Because if you did not support this podcast, I would be back in that asylum. But because of you, Batman has no idea where I am, and it's lovely. Anyways, let's get right into the news. So, we're going to start with Batman versus Superman, right? It is a movie that everyone or almost everyone has seen, right? It's pretty self-explanatory. It's Batman versus Superman. A little bit more complicated than that, but basically, Batman. The movie starts off in Batman's memory, right? Or chronologically in that order, yes. He starts off there and he watches as Superman and Zod, like Superman and Zod were from Man of Steel, and they included that fight from a different perspective in this movie. And of course, that hits me right in the weak spot, right? That is the best thing. That's continuity at its finest. That's my favorite part of these movies. They make these kind of things that go from movie to movie, and they don't screw it up. I love it. But anyways, we start there, and it's in Batman's memory, right? He remembers this because it's the day he thought he saw Superman as a threat to humanity, and it started him on this journey to try and kill Superman, right? And Superman just wants to live, but a lot of people, same as Batman, see him as a threat, right? So he's villainized, and he tries to apologize in many ways. But another character, Lex Luthor, is here to basically screw that up. One way he does that is in a court hearing where some survivor from the fight of Zod versus Superman, comes up and pleads and such, and there's a bomb strapped to him, and he blows the whole thing up. Of course, Superman tries to save the people, but that doesn't exactly work. Everyone starts to hate him for it, right? Anyways, we go on to find there's we go on to parts where it's just Superman and Batman going back and forth, and then Lex Luthor hops in out of nowhere and to agonize Batman or Superman, depends on which scene. And then Superman goes into exile, and then he comes back, and then Batman tries to kill him and almost does. But it turns out that Superman only went to Batman because Lex Luthor is holding his mother hostage and blackmailing him into fighting him so Batman will kill him. But at the end of the fight, as Batman's about to kill him, Superman tells him about his mother, who is named Martha. Now that's important, right? You might not think it is, but it's super important. Okay, so Martha's brought up, and it stuns, flashbangs, whatever you want to call it, Batman. He's just out of it now, right? He is out of it for the reason that his mother, who in his backstory, both of his mother and father died when they were getting mugged, right? His mother is also named Martha. So hearing Martha and mother in the same kind of area kind of just hit him in the side of the head, and now he's kind of out of his murderous rampage towards Superman and decides he's no longer a threat. So he decides to help Superman in defeating Lex Luthor and finding and saving his mother, right? So they do that, right? Superman goes and there's Doomsday there, and they have a fight, and Batman and Wonder Woman show up, and they they kind of sell themselves out in the sense. This is why there's my one nitpick with this movie would have to be the part where Batman versus Superman is basically just a trailer for the next in like Injustice movies and stuff. But it's a short story. Batman dies. Doomsday also dies. Uh, Batman is going to go look for Justice League. End of story. That's not important. The parts I want to analyze here, right, are the very beginning that starts Batman on this murderous rampage towards Batman. I guess it wouldn't be a rampage, but crusade, I guess, would be a better word. And when Batman gets snapped out of his crusade against Batman, when or against Superman, when Superman says Martha and Mother, right? Okay, keep that in mind. We're gonna move on to All the Light You Cannot See, right? It is a World War II book that is masterfully written, all right? Because there's two caveats with it, or not caveats, but there's two differences in this book that are different to other books, right? First thing, there's two main characters. It switches from perspective to perspective. It's a World War II book, and it switches to from a little girl called Marie Laure, from her to Werner, who is a German boy. Marie Laure is a French blind girl, right? And this is right, but she was born before World War II started, and she's not bad. Like she's teenish area, like preteens, 10, 12. But when they invade, Werner, right? He is a German boy, right? Smarter than heck, and is like he's recruited by the Hitler Youth, which was basically just indoctrinating youth into the Reich, and it goes on. And what this story also masterfully does is switch between times, right? Because in the very start, it goes to like the end of the story, right? It doesn't reveal anything, but it goes to the end, and I love this because it switches back and forth until the two timelines and the two character storylines converge, right? Ah, the continuity. It's so nice. The continuity is just immeasurable. Anyways, I love this book, right? But I'll explain the storylines here. Mary Lola, with her father, she goes blind, and her father works at the museum. They go through this whole museum thing where her and her father, her she he helps her by teaching her braille and helping her learn around the city, and the scientists there help her. Eventually, she and her father have to leave Paris because the Germans invading, and of course, the museum owner entrusts her father with this stone called the Sea of Flame, which is coveted by one of the main antagonists, Van Rumpel, right? So they take it, they go to this other town, and where her uncle and I guess her uncle's maid live, right? And they bunk there, right? Where she, where her father eventually starts to try and go back to Paris to return the stone, gets caught, and gets sent off somewhere else, right? Then her uncle Etienne has to take care of her along with the maid, who eventually dies. And then Etienne gets captured, and then Van Ruppel breaks into the house, and Mary Laure is stuck there with a murderous, cancered up person trying to kill her and take a stone, right? She finds out that her father didn't leave the stone before Van Ruppel comes, of course. But she finds out that and uses clues and her memories of what he told her, because he had constantly left hints for her, right? And then when he started sending her letters, he left extra hints. So she finds it, goes to the attic and hides. Then we go to Werner's story. He's a little kid. His parents died in mining. Same with his sisters. Well, his sister. They both their parents die. That goes out. He's sent off to the Hitler Youth because he's so smart. He meets a boy named Frederick. Frederick gets beat up. He gets rattled so hard that he has become. It's hard to put this, basically, uh, he can't do anything without help. He is just so mentally broken from the being beaten and the trauma and such. So he's gone. Then Werner is sent off with Von Bigman, as I like to call him, but his name is Von Hyman. I'm mispronouncing that. I know I am. One sec. Anyways, he goes off with him. They track down Russian signals. Eventually, they're tasked with going to track down, like, they're tracking down radio signals using a machine that Werner made. They track down Russian signals. Then they go to France and track down French rebellion signals, right? And then they end up in the same town as Merthilo, and they're tracking down signals. And now this is the big moment, right? This entire story has been making memories, and this is the pivotal moment which changes Werner's character. Werner has thought he can't go against the Nazi party, right? He can't do anything against them, anything to help his friends or anything at all. So he doesn't, right? He has seen a little girl in red hair shot, which she was innocent. She was just playing around outside, and of course, she was in the same house that one of their radio signals were sent, and she was shot. Big hit to him. But that is part of what leads him to turn, basically. He is in a truck, right? Sending out radio signals, or trying to track down radio signals, sorry. And then he hears something that him and his sister loved in their childhood. They listened to a radio in their childhood, right? They listened to this Frenchman and his teachings of science and such, right? So they do that. He hears this and he hears the music and he is just awestruck and he doesn't want to report it in. So he doesn't. Something in him changes. He is reborn anew, is the best way to put it. Because he decides that he can go against the Reich and go against these orders and such to hunt people down. He is changing to someone who knows that he can do something for the betterment of society, right? So he does. He doesn't report it in, and he goes along, and eventually their paths meet up, both Medlo and Werner's, because Werner's stuck in a basement eventually because D-Day happens, and he gets trapped in a bunker with Big Man, and eventually Mary Laura plays something over the radio because she thinks she's gonna die, so she tries to get Von Ruppel to come up the stairs or come up the ladder by playing music, which sends him into memories about his daughter and such. And actually, it resurrects Volkenheimer, right? It resurrects. He's assigned himself to die in this bunker, but he hears this classical music and he resurrects. He blows the rubble out. He gets him and Werner out, and then Werner, knowing what's about to happen to Melilor, because he's heard, he goes to her house, kills Van Rumpel, and takes her out. Like, takes Melilor to safety, right? She takes the Sea of Flames and returns it back to the sea because she thinks the goddess who cursed it, because it's a cursed stone that'll make you live forever but make everyone around you die, right? Van Rumpel was after it because had cancer and he was going to die if he didn't get it. Mary Law cast it into the sea, hoping it would break. She does this because she has a memory of everything bad happening because she has the stone. That's what she thinks it is. So she casts it into the sea and leaves. Okay. Now it goes on. Mary Lloyd lives to old age. Her Werner's sister has a child, gets a husband. Some other bad stuff happens to her once Germany kind of collapses and the Russians win and such. One thing I really hated about this book, they kill Werner off in one of the worst ways possible. They give him a mine. He steps on a mine and goes boom. What the heck? I hate that. I really do. Anyways, now we move on to comparing them. Now, when it comes to, there's one thing I have to say: the movie versus a book, big differences. Movie has a way shorter time span to give a full story than a book does. So the movie does it a lot worse. And if we're comparing it side by side, excuse me, this movie is like kind of halfway through the book when we do the comparison of memories and how they influence your actions with that theme, right? So we have to kind of think of it as just, yeah, it has a lot shorter time, so the book has a better way to developing it because it starts from their childhood when they're making the memories, so in the future they remember those memories and it changes their action, right? We're working with two different things here. In Batman versus Superman, we have Batman start his crusade, start down a path because he starts down this path because he sees Superman as a threat because he remembers what happened to the city when he fought Zod, and he thought too powerful, must die. Right. That can be compared to Werner, which he goes down the path of the Hitler Youth because he knows what happened to his parents. His parents died in the mines, right, or his dad did at least. He knows this, so he decides to join this Hitler Youth thing, not knowing what it did, so he's kind of not at fault here. But he joins it, and because he's so smart, he excels in it. And he keeps going because he doesn't want to die in the mines, and he wants to help his sister and just help everyone and just be a genuinely good person. But he decides not to see what's happening and just, yeah. Batman and him have a few similarities, and then it goes on. They both lose parents, but that's besides the point. It goes on, and then a pivotal moment at the end, something that reminds both of them of their childhood. Superman saying Martha for Batman, and Werner hearing the radio signal of the Frenchman and the music and such. They both hear these, and they are set back to their childhood, where before Batman's parents died, and before Werner joined the Hitler Youth and was just having fun times with his sister, and Batman was having fun times with the parents. They remember back to that, and it changes where they go. Batman stops trying to kill Superman, and Werner realizes he should be helping the Reich. They're bad people, so he doesn't. It's the similarities between these two that allow these two to be at all comparative. Like, there's no other way these two would be brought close together without these parallels, right? Anyways, we should probably try to use a different example than Werner. We could use the memory of. It's not really comparable between the two, but in All the Light You Cannot See, Mary Laura, as I explained before, finds the stone in one of her dad's building sculptures of the town they're in, right? Because he sculpts buildings. He had been telling her, giving hints to her the entire time he was there. And then when he was taken by the Germans, when he tried to go back to Paris and give the stone back, he didn't take the stone with him because he had a feeling that was going to happen. He went back. He started sending letters to Mary Laura and gave her even more hints. She figured it out eventually. It's the memories. The memories allowed her to find it. But it's not very comparable to Superman versus Batman and such. Werner is the main comparison here, right? It's like a side by side reference. Two main characters in two separate stories are entirely on their path because they have memories that set them down that path and they have memories and people that they want to protect, right? And they get set down this path, and then there's a pivotal moment near the end that changes these characters because they thought of their memories and realized this is not a good path I'm on. I can't be doing this. It is an absolutely amazing. I never thought a superhero movie could be compared to a World War II book, like in any sense. But it's done. Oh my god. I loved both of these. I love the book more than I love the movie, but Batman's amazing. And I love Werner and Mary Law and just every character in All the Light We Cannot See is amazing. Even Van Rumpel, he was a pretty good villain. He wasn't there, but he was also there. If you know if you can understand what I'm trying to say. I love the movie. Yeah, I love the book. I want to see them make a TV series for All the Light We Cannot See. That sounds like it would be amazing. Anyways, I should probably get out of here, guys. I think my signal's going on too long, and I think Batman's starting to track me. I can already hear the footsteps on the roof. Thank you all for tuning in. Don't forget to click like and join us back for our next episode when Batman's not trying to subdue me. Thank you all again, and have a wonderful evening.